Hey everybody, welcome to our new series, Buy It or Bust. We are out here at Dealer's Auto Auction of the Rockies, and we're gonna find 3 cars out of the hundreds about to be auctioned off that we think are affordable, modern collectibles. And Brendan has brought along his first choice, a Buick Riviera.
It's a Riviera by Buick. I challenge you to find a Buick badge on the outside of this car. It doesn't exist.
So I always looked at these older Buick Rivs as kind of like lumpy 90s G-body kind of mush, but you think they're pretty cool and you're gonna try to make the pitch to me today.
I mean, yes, so these are based off the Monte Carlo, which was lumpy G-body mush. But look at the design of this thing. It is super sleek. They took that ugly Monte Carlo and made it a beautiful, timeless design.
Now this was one of the very last of kind of the personal luxury coupes. So it's an enormous car with just 2 doors and it only seats a few people. And this was supposed to kind of give you the most opulent experience from point A to point B. You want to pop the hood? Yeah. We'll show under the hood and I'll talk about the back end. Dual exhaust out in the back. This is a 95 model year. Now this would have competed with cars like the Lincoln Mark 8, the Lexus SC 400, excuse me. And under the hood is something pretty unusual. What are we looking at?
So this is GM's 3.8 liter V6, but they slapped a supercharger on it.
That's pretty cool. So what's the power output?
So this one puts out 225 horsepower. If you got this engine in later models, you know, they put this in a lot of different things, like the Pontiac Grand Prix GTP. They put it in the Bonneville SSEI, and it incrementally had a lot more power, but this was 1995, kind of the earlier version of it. So it only put out 225, but still pretty good for the time. It was keeping up with, you know, like the Lexus SC 400 that we talked about and the Lincoln Mark II.
Mark 8.
Oh gosh,
it's okay.
Mark 8,
you're
sorry.
Good. No, you're good. No, I mean, I do like the supercharger. It is front wheel drive. It is a transverse setup, so it's probably not gonna be much of a handling machine.
No.
But let's check out the inside, because you're telling me there's some pretty cool stuff on the inside. Now, of course, here at these dealers only auctions, you're kind of running the gamut on what condition will look like, but hop on in, Brendan. How is the shape on this guy?
So this one, for a 95, only has 115,000 miles on it, and it looks like it's got half of that. These seats are plush, super nice, in great shape. This dash is set up like a cockpit, makes you feel like you're in a fighter jet. It's super nice in here.
So some of the wacky things on the inside of this car, you have passenger side comfort controls, but only warmer and cooler. And if you want to start it up, Brandon, we'll actually show how they work. It illuminates on this little panel in these little LED lights. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but when you increase and decrease it, these little lights go up and down. So Brendan, walk me through some of the crazy features in here.
Yeah, so you have a CD changer right here. You've got your radio, which this knob, when I first grabbed it, you think it's just going to spin like a normal knob, but it has this very like tactile feel where you twist it and it bounces back. And I think that's kind of an interesting choice. You can push this open. You've got your ashtray there. You've got cup holders right here. And it's all in this really interesting, what do you call it, like sea foam green color interior.
I love all the air vents. So you have 2 here, you've got 2 right next to these 2, you got 2 more over here, an insane number of air vents, and the gauges on this car are probably cooler than any other. They're these perfectly round units, and they just look incredible. So you're starting to sell me a little bit, but let's take it for a ride and see if that'll seal the deal.
Sounds good.
So the dash experience in this is pretty nuts. So you've got this part that kind of sticks out from the middle of the dashboard, a good like 7 inches, but it makes it feel like you're behind the wheel of, or I guess the yoke of a cockpit.
Yeah, and the other things that I think are interesting too is there again, it says the Riviera by Buick, and over here by the headlight controls, so not only does it have the automatic headlight controls, but it's got a switch that'll allow you to, I guess, determine how much auto headlight, like how dark it is when it comes on.
If it adjusts like the sensitivity, that's right, of the automatic headlights. And this thing is nice. It's got the original owner's manual. There you go, it says Buick there, it says Buick on the steering wheel. So they're not totally trying to hide the fact, but it's just a lovely thing to ride around in. I mean, the ride, I can tell you immediately, is incredibly soft. This is not a high performance machine that you want to go throw around a racetrack, but for just cruising along 60, 70 miles an hour, this would be pretty great.
I think this is kind of like a budget Bentley, if you think about it, right?
Like it's a Continental?
It's a coupe. It's a 2-door. It's kind of quick and soft and cushy, right?
Well, let's see how quick it is. We're on the test track. Unleash the 3.8. It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not as fast as a Bentley Continental, but it's quick.
Yeah, and you get a little hint of supercharger whine, just a little touch. Transmission felt good, brakes feel good. This had, I think, traction control and ABS all the way back in 1995. So this thing was very technologically advanced for its day. Super soft ride. You're starting to win me over a little bit. I mean, some of this interior materials are very mid-90s GM, but I love the design.
And the question I have is, do you have a heated seat control?
I do not.
Only the driver has a heated seat control, and it's on the door like a Mercedes.
Get me out of this peasant's wagon. I want nothing to do with it. So Brendan, I am on board with the Riviera.
You get it now? You've come and seen the light?
I do. I think it's cool. I like the supercharger. I like the design. I love the comfort. I'm going to go buy it. How about you?
Absolute buy it, for sure. I mean, again, like you said, they're not performance machines, but it is hard to find something these days this comfortable that's just going to waft you down the road.
So what do you think it's going to go for at auction?
Now this is a tough one, right? Because these are a 95, so it's starting to get into that collector status, right? So a few years ago, these would have gone, even as nice as this, $1,000, $2,000 at the auctions. But tomorrow at the auction, I think this very well could bring $4,000.
I am going to say $3,000 because it's still a 90s Buick, but we'll see what happens. Let's cut to that right now. So Brendan, the Buick just rolled through the auction block. What did it sell for?
Sold for $3,000. Now I jumped in because I love that thing and I threw a few bids in, but it ended up going for $3,000, which is right on the nose for what you thought it would go for.
So Brendan, here's my pick for a future affordable classic. This is a Mercedes ML, the first generation, I think, the 163 platform. And this one's a 2002 with 122,000 miles. And yes, they are a little lumpy looking and they're not super attractive from some angles, but I think that these could be pretty cool affordable classics. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, with the gold on gold on gold, maybe not.
Check out this interior, especially the door panels. This kind of wrinkled beige looks exactly like your grandparents naked. That's what that is. But these are actually insanely good value. They offer a lot of comfort and a lot of reliability. So these old MLs got the nickname the Alabama trash can because these were built in Alabama. And this was from the era of Mercedes where they kind of under-engineered some stuff. But what that means is that they're pretty dirt simple to work on. Parts are really cheap, and they're like one of the few Mercedes where they're relatively affordable to keep on the road.
So unlike the S-Class, these are actually somewhat reliable?
We'll go with it, yeah. Now, the other funny thing about these is these are trucks. So these are body on frame with a low range transfer case. Now, There were a few different models. There was like the 320. This one is actually the V8, so this is a 430. By the way, to open these hoods, you gotta reach into this little star, and there's this little pull tab. There you have it, 4.3 liter V8. I think they're like 270 horsepower. And then, of course, the ones you really want are the ML55s.
Oh yeah, the AMGs? I wouldn't mind having one of those.
The AMGs, yeah, you're right. All right, watch your fingers coming down. Now, if you hop on the inside, Brendan, you want to get over there on the passenger side, I'll show you some cool stuff. So check this out from the old style of Mercedes. You have the window switches and the door locks in the middle versus on the doors. You got all of this wood throughout, which looks quite nice. The gauges, very, very, very vintage. Love these old style Mercedes gauges, but there's some new tech in here as well. So if we take the key, see, you got lock, unlock, you got real buttons. And then in the middle, this actually has a nav system. So factory navigation, we turn down the climate control. Interestingly enough, not automatic climate, MCS navigation. And let's see if it works. I bet it does. These are pretty surprisingly long lasting. Press enter to agree. Not a touchscreen though. Oh yeah, look at that. Still works. That's really cool. No, not a touchscreen. You got to use these little buttons in this little thing, but that still works pretty well. Let's go to the radio screen, see what that looks like. Fantastic. This one is working AC. It's got heated seats, which is nice. Electronic stability control. These used a system, I think it was called 4 ETS. It was like one of the first examples of brake-based traction control, which was very, very advanced and luxurious. I'm looking for the low range button. It's over here. It's up here on the top by the radio. So true low range system. This is a sport package, so it's got those funky looking fog lights. 3 vents across the middle, and very comfortable seats. So it may look like you're a naked grandma, but they're so squishy. So Brendan, let's hop on in and take her for a spin.
Sounds good.
What do you think of the M-Class, the ML from the first drive here?
You know, this one in particular, I think was pretty well cared for. It even comes with a sunshade that's fitted to this, this windshield here. But you know, the one thing I cannot find for the life of me is, where am I gonna put my big gulps?
All right, you see that little button over there, that little cubby?
Yeah?
Give that a little push.
Oh, no way.
Look at that.
Why do they want to hide those from you?
So these cars are pretty good. I actually owned one for a while, an ML320. Very early one with the cloth seats, which is why I bought it, and then the transfer case blew up. So this whole thing about like, oh, they're pretty reliable, but that's because the transfer case was never maintained in that model. This one though, as you mentioned, like it even has Mercedes branded windshield wipers.
Holy cow.
So someone put a lot of money and time into this.
I'll bet if you pulled the Carfax on this, every service was at the dealer.
I bet you're right.
Yep.
100%. So we're gonna point it down the little acceleration route here, and we're gonna see what it's like. We'll give it a little squirt. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So 4.3 liter V8. Pretty good push. It goes pretty good.
Yeah, isn't this the base model engine too?
No, there was a V6 below this.
Okay. Well, it makes sense why it has a little bit of get up and go then.
That was pretty good actually. Now,
Yeah.
one thing I hate, I don't like the body colored flares and that kind of thing. I think they're pretty hideous. However, as a good running and driving car, steering's perfect, brakes feel pretty good, no warning lights on the dash. We're gonna park this up and see if we'd buy it or if it's a bust. All right, Brendan, have I convinced you on the first gen Mercedes-Benz ML?
You know, I may be able to be swayed on this one a little. I think it's pretty nice. I mean, any car of this generation that's in this good of condition, you should buy it, for sure.
So what do you think it's gonna go for?
You know, it's kind of a mid-level. It's this gold on gold with picturing my naked grandparents now, thanks to you. But I could see this fetching $3,000 at the auction.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little higher. I think it's gonna go for $3,500.
Oh man, our numbers are pretty close.
Pretty close. I think we're pretty spot on there. So let's go see what happens.
Sounds good.
I'm not here. Now saying you're 8. Now saying internet sound. No mistakes. Now 11, sir. 11, 12.
All right, Brendan, so the Mercedes just rolled through the block. What did it sell for?
It sold for $3,800.
So I said 35, you said 3.
So you beat me yet again, Tommy.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3 so far for you. We only have 1 left. We'll see if I can at least get a consolation prize.
And now a car we both agree on. I present to you the 2013 Mazda Speed 3. Brendan, what do you think of this guy?
These are so cool. I mean, people complained back in this time, right, that we never got the Ford Focus ST, right? Right before we actually did get that Ford Focus ST. But this is how Ford brought that Ford Focus ST here to America in the Mazda form.
So this thing was pretty special. You want to pop the hood?
Yeah.
Now what made this so much cooler than the other hot hatches back 10 years ago was the horsepower was nuts. So this was like 265 horsepower, if I remember correctly, turbocharged horsepower. And they had notoriously horrible torque steer, but there you can see the 2.3 liter turbocharged engine with that intercooler mounted right on top. And this one is pretty cool because it's looking pretty stock. Almost every Speed 3 I see has some kind of weird turbo mods or some kind of blue tubes coming out of it.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to find one in this nice of shape and completely unmolested.
Yeah, really, really neat. Now the Mazda Speed 3 had some variations over the standard Mazda 3. Giant hood scoop in the front.
Yeah, and this is the second gen Mazda Speed 3, and if you kind of look at it, the one thing that I don't like about them is they kind of gave it this little smiley face here on the front, so it looks like it's smiling at you, and it's kind of hard to take seriously going down the road.
Along the side, you'll find a set of 18-inch wheels. These ones are a little rough. They could use a little bit of kind of cosmetic work to them. Same thing in the rear. You got a big spoiler in the back and then a big old dual exhaust. This one, as you see it, about 109,000 miles. Exterior is in pretty good shape, but the interior is looking really good. Let's check that out.
So the interior on these Mazda Speed 3s, I thought was always pretty cool. Now you could get these with leather seats, but much like the Volkswagen Golfs that had the tartan interiors, the ones to get in these were the cloth seats that have this cool, interesting red and black pattern. And not only that, but you did have this really cool cockpit design where everything was kind of integrated. You didn't have like a separate feeling radio. It was all kind of built in, and it was a very smooth and sleek and I think timeless design on the interior.
It's also very driver-centric, right? So everything is kind of aimed toward the driver, but 6-speed manual transmission. It's got a standard key. This is a pretty late Model 3 as they go. Pretty late Mazda Speed 3 as they go, but you've got stuff like dual zone climate control, right? Which is nice, Brendan.
Yep.
Of course, steering wheel buttons. You got that big pronounced gauge cluster, which looks good. Not like the highest quality interior in terms of feeling, and you'll do notice that like it's starting to delaminate up there on the dash.
Yeah, I think this is pretty common with this generation of Mazda 3s. A lot of the ones that I've seen that have spent any amount of time outdoors, they do delaminate and separate from that screen. I think that's just kind of a design flaw of these Mazda 3s in general back then. And as far as the interior being cheap, I mean, this was in line with the STIs and the Evos and other things like that, other hot hatches, other fast, cheap cars, and so they kept the interior as low cost as they could, so keep the entry-level price cheap so that a lot of people could buy it.
So people complained back in the day that these had pretty hard rides, if I remember right, and then really kind of tricky clutches. How does this one feel 109,000 miles later?
Yeah, I think that hard ride is even harder by the fact that whoever got rid of this left it with some suspension issues. It's definitely clunking over the bumps.
Yeah, not sounding super healthy. Does it have brakes? Oh yeah, it does have brakes. That's
brakes
good.
are pretty healthy at least.
And I think that the engine looks pretty good in this guy as well. So I think it's got a pretty strong engine. Now, of course, 2013, this would have competed against like a Mark 6 Golf GTI, was probably one of the chief competitors. And a little later on, you said like the Fiesta STs came out, right? There's another one of his competitors potentially, the 500 Abarth.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that one.
But these cars are really special, and they are so fast in a straight line with such an insane amount of torque steer. So we're going to take it down a little test track here and see if we can keep it out of the wall.
Don't worry, I'll hold on with both hands, Tommy.
Both hands, Brendan. Front wheel drive, of course.
All right, here we go. Woo! Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. They've got some balls.
Yes, it does.
Now, not a great sounding engine.
Yeah, and you noticed a little bit of turbo lag there too, or at least I did. When I put the pedal to the floor, there was definitely a little bit of a few seconds there before it really kind of kicked us in the rear and took off.
You're being a little kind. It was like a long wait before the turbo kicked in, but when that puppy kicks in, you really go shooting down off the strip.
It's like the surprise roller coaster. You think you're just driving this economy car, so you're flooring it, and then it just kind of kicks you in the rear and shoots you off. It's pretty fun, actually.
Super fun. All right, so Brendan, the 2013 Mazda Speed 3, is this gonna be a buy it or a bust?
I think these are a buy. These are such cool cars, man.
I agree. I think this is a total buy. They're just, especially in like relatively stock condition, you don't see a lot of them. They're super fast, over 260 horsepower. What do you think it's gonna go for?
You know, this one has a few issues. The AC's not working like we saw, and that suspension's got that little bit of a clunk like we saw as well. So I think taking that into account, it's going to go a little bit lower than you think. I think this is only going to fetch about $7K at the auction. I'm
being a little more optimistic because it still is a stock Speed 3, rust-free. I'm going to guess 9. Let's use right.
All right,
There goes the Mazda.
It's going up. Let's see what it does.
All right, let's see what happens. Wow, they're starting aggressive, so he's trying to start at $15,000. No way, I don't believe it.
It's a bit ambitious, I think. Oh, it hit at 12. It hit at 12.
The Mazda just went through the lane. What was the high bid?
The high bid on it was $12,250, and it did not sell.
But I was closer.
You were closer.
Yeah, that was a lot of money for that Mazda. I think I said 9, right? So
Yeah, and I said 7, so it went way over what both of us thought it could.
So I did do pretty well on this one. I got all 3 the closest.
You wiped the floor with me, Tommy. Well, Tommy, I guess you won this one.
Thanks,
Congrats.
buddy. I appreciate it. Now, if it were me, the one I'd take home is that Riviera. I really think it's very, very cool. The Mazda's nice. It's a little tired. The Mercedes is nice. It's a little boring. So the Buick has my vote.
I'm glad that I finally won you over to the Silver Bullet and its opulent comfort.
All right, guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. This has been Tommy.
And Brendan.
We'll see you in the next video.